Welcome back to Flick Favorites. I'm going to explain an action, thriller film from 2019, titled, Cold Pursuit. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. In the village of Kehoe, snowplow driver Nels Coxman and his wife Grace have a peaceful life. Their son Carl Coxman, who works at the Kehoe airport, frequently pays the couple a visit. Coxman receives the community's award for Citizen of the Year, but the evening does not go well for him when his son and his buddy Dante are abducted from the airport. While they are traveling, the kidnappers give him a heroin overdose, which causes him to pass away, but Dante is able to escape the van. A drug cartel boss in Denver, Viking, wants his son Ryan to use violence at school to avenge the bullies, but Ryan resists due of his peaceful nature. Carl's passing is announced, and Coxman and Grace are contacted to identify the body. Given that Carl was never a drug user, the doctor's explanation that a drug overdose caused his death is not accepted by Carl. Grace becomes upset to see her son in this way and quarrels with Coxman over his lack of feelings. He attempts to shoot himself with his shotgun after learning of the death of his son, but Dante, who has been hidden in the workshop ever since the tragedy, stops him. He relates the entire scenario to him while being horrified by what happened to Carl, explaining that his death was not due to an overdose. Coxman discovers information about a man by the name of Speedo after becoming furious at hearing this and forcing him to expose the names and whereabouts of the kidnappers. When he confronts Speedo about his son's passing at a neighborhood bar, he flatly denies any knowledge of it. Instead, he asks him to go while threatening him, but Coxman takes him down. Coxman tortures him once more once he awakens, at which point he admits that he carried out the commands of a man by the name of Limbo. Coxman assassinates Limbo and tosses his body into the river once Limbo's identity has been established. Viking, who had worked with Speedo, learns of his abduction as he is his route to drop Ryan off at school. Viking reassures Ryan that he was not involved, despite Ryan's belief that he must have done something to him. Following the murder of Speedo, Coxman discovers Limbo in his place of business and tortures him to learn more about his commander. He then shoots him, and just as before, he throws the body into the river. Grace asks him about Carl's activities when he gets home, but she becomes unhappy when she learns that he never developed a relationship with his son. When Viking returns to Denver, his ex-wife pays him a visit and tells him that Ryan's custody request has been filed. He becomes irate with her and offers her money in exchange, but she declines. Before he has a chance to persuade her anymore, Viking learns of Limbo's disappearance. Ryan watches him with concern as he begins questioning and reprimanding his workers. In the meantime, Coxman keeps up his murderous rampage and kills Santa, another mobster who was also responsible for the kidnapping of his son. After becoming offended by his lack of sorrow for their dead kid, Grace fled the house when Paul got home. He sees his brother Brock Coxman, an ex-gang member, after being left alone, and tells him the whole story. Brock informs him that when Carl attempted to rob Viking the drug boss of his riches, they thought it was Dante. Viking is told by Brock, who used to work with him, that he cannot be reached. Brock does not think Coxman can kill someone because he has never been involved in such activities, but Coxman admits he wants to exact revenge on Carl. Viking is informed of Santa as they debate the matter. Given that a third member of his group vanished within a week, he becomes suspicious and assumes that his competitor White Bull is responsible for the chaos. He explains to his crew that he formerly collaborated with White Bull, but they subsequently agreed to keep their respective regions separate after signing a contract. He believes they are breaking the terms of the agreement and wants to make them pay for it. He instructs his guys to kidnap a member of the rival gang and torture him in order to obtain information. Viking becomes enraged when he withholds information and shoots him, not realizing that he is the sole child of his competitor White Bull. Detectives Kim Dash and John Jip of the Kehoe Police Department also learn about the murder and believe it to be the start of a turf war between two gangs that might destabilize the community. Dash exhorts Jip to take action to stop the impending threat even if he appears hesitant to start the probe. At Brock's residence, he informs Coxman that Viking's true name is Trevor Calcote and that he should be killed by a hired assassin. He informs him about a man named Eskimo and suggests that he pay him in advance for his services. Coxman contacts Eskimo upon his advice and extends an invitation to visit. He provides him half of the agreed-upon payment while showing him the room in a nearby hotel, but Eskimo misidentifies him as a police officer and starts to argue. He placates him by demonstrating his identity. Eskimo gets money from him, but then goes to Viking and demands the same amount, to sell the information that someone is trying to get him killed. He says that Coxman wants him killed when they send the necessary funds into his account. Viking believes it to be Brock Coxman since he once worked with his father and may be involved in a past disagreement. As soon as Viking receives the information from Eskimo, he reprimands him for breaking his agreement with Coxman and kills him as punishment for his immoral actions. Nels Coxman seeks to find out more about Trevor Calcote or Viking as his guys dispose of the body. Brock is offered a lift by Viking when he arrives at his home. He threatens to murder him while questioning the motive for killing his guys in the automobile. Brock, who already has rectal cancer, chooses to rescue his brother and accepts the responsibility, claiming that he just wanted to get revenge on Brock since his father took his lady. Viking also kills him after listening to him and deciding that he poses a threat. White Bull, the head of a rival gang, is also mourning the loss of his kid. He reminds his group about the previous agreement with Viking's father, but he makes it clear that it is no longer valid because they killed the man's son as payment. He declares that he would adopt a boy as his son in an effort to get revenge on him. Coxman observes Viking's home after learning that Eskimo did not murder him. There, he sees Viking with his son and learns about his prep school. After murdering Brock and learning that White Bull was not involved in the killings of his gang members, Viking chooses to extend his agreement with them. In order to accomplish this, he kills his own man Dexter and instructs his squad to give White Bull his head as a present. White Bull has already given the order to abduct Ryan from his school, but he requests that they hold off till he hears from Viking. His messenger displays Dexter's skull and informs him that Dexter killed his kid, and as a result, they have punished him in order to uphold their half of the bargain. As he continues to argue that he just wants Viking's son, White Bull thanks him for the gift before shooting him. Meanwhile, Kim learns that Carl used to work with Dante at the Kehoe airport and that he passed away from an overdose. She sees Coxman and expresses her worry that, in her opinion, his death was not caused by an overdose. He declines her request for assistance in her search for the truth and tells her that she cannot help him at this time since his kid has already passed away. Coxman later shows up to Ryan's school and informs Ryan that his father had instructed him to bring him up. Having never met him before, Ryan is hesitant to accompany him, but Coxman persuades him. He is seen outside the school by White Bull's men, who begin after him, but he delivers Ryan home safely. The news of his son's disappearance reaches Viking. Before he can do anything to track him down, his wife reappears and confronts him for taking Ryan without his consent. He informs her about Ryan's kidnapping but reassures her that he will rescue Ryan whenever someone calls in with his ransom demands. On the other side, Dexter's gang member texts him about staying at a hotel, which is received by White Bull's guys. They locate him quickly and murder him as well. To keep an eye on the Viking and his gang, White Bull and his group travel to Kehoe and set up shop at a ski resort. Ryan and Coxman arrive at his home in the meanwhile, and Coxman offers to prepare lunch for him. When Ryan inquires about his family, he replies that he does not. After acknowledging that he had a son, he treats him nicely and offers for him to sleep in Carl's room, but he no longer resides with him. Even more, he offers to take him for a ride on his snowplow and tells him a tale. The gang members enjoy their time at the resort as they wait for their next operation, but White Bull misses his son and vows to get retribution. A school janitor is brought in by Viking's men in Denver, who then learn that Coxman abducted Ryan. Viking realizes he misread the names and that Brock wasn't the one trying to trick him, rather, it was someone else. Calling Viking, Coxman requests that he come over by himself to get his son. While giving him assurance, Viking instructs his crew to travel to Kehoe. They search his home but are unable to locate anybody since Coxman took Ryan for a spin on his snowplow. Coxman presents Ryan as his nephew as they come upon a police vehicle. Jip informs him he observed several automobiles at his house as they are conversing, and Coxman realizes Viking has come. They decide to look for Ryan there after discovering the business name from one of the images while investigating his home. One of Viking's soldiers spills the information and tells White Bull about them as Viking and his men leave. Ryan cuts off Coxman as he attempts to shoot Viking while aiming at their automobiles. He promptly leads him back inside and instructs him to remain there until he returns to get him. He attempts to shoot him again but is unsuccessful and is captured by his men, who take him to Viking. Ryan is the subject of his questioning, but before Coxman can respond, White Bull and the gang show up and start firing. The opposing factions get into a brawl, which nearly wipes off everyone on both sides. When Viking tries to flee, Coxman captures him in his car, and White Bull then kills him. White Bull boards the vehicle beside Coxman as he departs the scene to return to his job. Viking is discovered by the police just before he passes away, and Ryan is seen leaving the area in the snowplow. After realizing he is not a criminal, White Bull is gratified with Coxman. The last surviving gang member on a parachute accidentally crosses in front of them and is killed by the plow as he puts his rifle down and they continue to drive away. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay updated on future videos. Leave a like to support the channel.